Hello, welcome to the HEC-DSSVue Data Entry and Editing lecture. My name is Oskar Hurst, and I'm here with the Water Management and Systems Division at HEC, the Hydrologic Engineering Center. Okay, let's jump into it. So for this lecture, we're going to be focusing on three main points. Manual data entry, which is going to include the entry for time series data, as well as for paired data and text data, and also how to copy and paste data into our entry tools, as well as how to use the automatic generation of data feature. We're also going to be looking at tabular editing, and then finally using the graphical editor. So now within DSSVue, in order to use the data entry tools, you first have to select the data option. And if you see here within DSSVue, you can find data right in our top menu. And if you drop down, you're going to see the manual time series option, manual paired data option, and manual text. So let's say we wanted to create a time series from using manual data entry. We're just going to click our first option here, and it's going to open up the time series data entry window. So here's some important things to know when you're using the manual entry tools in DSSVue. So the first is that currently it only supports entry for time series data, so for both regular and irregular time series, paired data, and text data. You can type it manually, you can copy and paste it from other files, as well as use some of the import tools that we have. Other important things to note is that if you're going to be using and creating an irregular interval, you got to make sure that you have to write in the time for every single data point. And also for the paired data, you have to make sure that you have the correct number of curves whenever you're importing data into it. So let's just go ahead and follow along with an example for entering in regular interval time series data manually. So the first step is to always enter in the path name. So you can go ahead and select A, and we can go and type in our location. And now to go to B, you can either click B, you can also just click Tab, and it should automatically move your cursor to the next window. And so by default, the E part to the interval is always going to be set to 1 hour for a regular time series. And so next we're going to want to put in our start date for our time series. And finally the units. So after that, we can just start putting in data. So I'm going to just start by putting in some random values. We can see it visually here, but also if we want to plot it, we just have to click this plot button, which then open up a plot window that you can use to visually see your data. So once you have this all complete, if you click the save button, it'll automatically go ahead and save your time series to the given path. But let's say if we didn't want to manually input all the data, but we just wanted to use the automatic generation tools, we're just going to click this automatic generation tab right here. So from there, we want to then select the end date. So this is going to be the date that in between the start date and the end date that all the data points are going to be filled from. So from here, we're going to just put December 2017 and do So an important thing to note is that for times in DSS, 2400 is going to be the last hour of the day, and 100 is the first hour of the day. Okay, so now if we click generate, we're going to see it generated all the times in between our start date and all the way down to our end date. And it's filled them with that fill value. Now, let's say that we wanted to turn this regular time series into an irregular time series. So currently, you can see we can click in these spots, but they're kind of grayed out, and we can't actually edit any of the values. But if we go ahead and we change our interval so currently it's at 1 hour regular time series, but we want to make it an irregular time series, we have to select one of these irregular intervals. So let's just select IR day. And then we can go ahead, and these times are now editable. So we can now edit these times, and let's say we want this to start a day early. So this is an irregular day time series. And so it's automatically changed, and so if you save it, it'll save it to this new path value. So we can still graph it again. You can see the line. So perfect. So now let's look at our paired data entry. So here's some examples of some of the type of things that you can use with paired data. So the first are the general uses, which is going to be for rating tables and the reservoir elevation area curves. But also you can use this paired data to represent stage damage curves. You can do this by setting each one of the curves to a different damage category. So within our example, we're going to be using categories like residential, commercial, and agricultural. And finally, you can also represent flow frequency curves as paired data. So similar to the time series data, from our data option here at the top window, we're going to go down and we're going to select manual paired data. So from there, we're going to open up. It's going to open up the manual paired data entry window. So same as before, we're going to want to type in our path. And then an important thing to note afterwards is you have to set the number of curves. So for this example, we'll only get to select one curve. We can put our units as feet and the Y units as CFS. And then we can just start by putting in our data manually, similar to for time series data. So let's see. We can plot again, and we can see the XY pairs plotted on the plot here. So let's do another example for manual paired data entry. But in this one, we notice that we have 3 curves. We're going to set our units to 1,000. And also, I had this Excel spread out, and it's going to show how we can copy and paste it as well. So if we copy this from here, we select the top right corner here, we can go ahead and paste. It'll save it right there. And now if we go ahead and we plot again, we're going to see the values that are represented. So we're just looking at an earlier frame of our stage damage curves. So let's look at another example of copying and pasting from Excel. So if we open back up DSSVue here, we can go ahead and select another paired data. So here it is, this guy. And if we click on the Excel button after selecting it, it's going to go ahead and open up an Excel file based off the contents of that paired data. So we can see it here. So if we go ahead and we copy and paste all the values into our manual paired data entry window, as seen here, You can also see that this has 4 curves. So we're going to change this to 4. It's going to be percent CFS. Now if we go in and we just paste it in, you can see that we have all our data inside our curve, and we can save it and plot it. And we can see here's our flow frequency curves. All right, perfect. Okay, now let's talk about importing and entering text data. So text data inside DSS is just like a text file on your computer. For a normal TXT file, you wouldn't expect it to have any fancy formatting. Generally there's no limit, but we advise that you don't do any more than 1,000 lines per record. And also, just like in a text file on your computer, you can't have any special any extremely unique characters or, special formatting. So it's just regular text. And we can then copy and paste and save data just as if it was a text file from our computer. Another important thing to note is that for the path names for text files, there's no stiff conventions. So you can name the location, the A part, B part, C part, D part, E part, anything you want. They're totally, customizable, nothing strict. And generally we use them for writing important, information about either gauges or sites, and in SWMS they're used for messaging. So once again, let's look at how we can create a manual text data. So same as for our last 2 options, we're going to go ahead and select manual text. And this is going to open up a little text editor as seen here. So let's see, I have a text file that I have some notes about a gauge. So I can go ahead, copy, paste it in here. Same as anything, I could write any other text I wanted inside there. But if I wanted to then save this file, this text file, to a DSS, I would then want to click Save As, in which case here I'd write down the path name. And once my path name is written, and remember there's no conventions, you can mix and match anything. But if you want it to match up with other locations, you would obviously continue to write locations in the A part. But once you have it down, you click OK, and then it will save that text file to your DSS. Okay, now let's look at how we can import our text files. So once again, we have that text file on our computer. So we go to Data, Import, and let's see, Text from File. Then we can go ahead and select the text, our text.txt file, and open up, and it'll automatically import it and read it into our DSSVue. And if we go ahead and we just do file save as before, we can change the path name. Now let's look at for exporting our text data. Same as before, we're going to go to the data tab, but as you can see here, the export is grayed out, like you can't select it. So the reason for this is that you have to go ahead and select a time series or a path from your catalog. So once you've selected a path, you can then select the data tools, and we can see we now have the export option. And inside there, you can see that there's export to files. So an important thing to note is that if you select something that isn't text data, then you go to data export, you no longer see the export to file option. You only see export to file if you have selected a text data file. So export to files, then you can write a name of your text document here. So new gauge info, and it'll automatically save it to this location. Click cancel for now. All right, perfect. So that's going to finish up the first part of our data entry lecture. In our next part, we're going to be looking at tabular editing. So thank you so much, and see you then.